we are back with a new brand, new name. We are now Breathe.Move.Sing. I am here with Dr. Liz and I'm Dr. Abby. And we just wanted to, we'll talk about our exciting new guest in a moment, but ooh, we've got some other voices happening. Okay, we're going.
Learning together.
At least the piano didn't die.
Don't jinx us.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so just a real quick comment about our upcoming mastermind, Breathe.Move.Sing, which is also the name of our new weekly videos, Breathe.Move.Sing Weekly. We are looking for 5 to 7 singers who are interested in working with a PT and a voice teacher mushed together, the two of us working with you guys, and we're really excited about it. Please reach out to us and ask questions.
Yeah,
Liz,
we're going to do the same
what are we up
thing
to today.
We'll do the same thing we do here, where we discuss how our movement patterns affect our singing voices and what we can do about it. And today we have a special guest, tenor Ryan Chavis, who was at UNCG when I was about 40,000 years ago. Not quite 40,000, but Ryan reached out to us because he has some stuff that he's working on as he's getting ready for grad school auditions.
Yep.
So what we're going to do, first off, hi, Ryan.
Hi, how are you?
I'd like to play a clip of you singing. And then what we'll do is we'll ask Ryan some questions about stuff that he is dealing with. So let me get the page up and here we go.
In the evening, as far as the eye can see, herds of black pianos, up to their knees in the mire, they listen to the frogs.
Excellent. It's not a bad place to stop. I want to listen to the rest of the song. So, Ryan, talk to us a bit and tell us what you're experiencing now vocally. And my first question, before you get started, is did that feel easy to sing or did it feel hard to sing?
This particular rep really does feel easy to sing. I think I typically feel a lot of ease when I'm singing, which is kind of like something that's kind of the oddity, is that sometimes I just like lack vocal functionality, like it just won't work, but I'll feel a ton of ease when I'm doing everything else when it is working. And so it's just kind of like figuring out what intermittently is not connecting is the big thing for me right now. And kind of unraveling that.
Well, why don't you tell us a bit about your history, your vocal history, because I think this is something that singers need to hear first off, because a lot of us deal with it.
Yeah, totally. Well, where to start? I've been singing since I was probably like 17, 18, seriously, and taking voice lessons. And I went to undergrad. I went to a few different schools and like settled on undergrad at UNCG and got my BA in general music. So not necessarily in a voice performance degree. So I was kind of taking it all in. And I was very lucky to be able to study with a teacher who is like a pedagogical god, basically. Like Dr. Wells is pretty great.
Dr. Robert Wells.
Yeah. He's great. So while I was in his studio, I grew so much. I went from really kind of having like a bottled up and like tight voice where I didn't even get into the school of music at the start, because when I came from, so let me back up a little bit. I did go to school in Seattle and had a teacher that was like very about like this down and out, very German style of singing that like built up a lot of tension in me over the years that I was there. And when I came to Greensboro, it was like flipping voice on its head. It was the opposite of what I was getting with Dr. Wells. So you know, my voice like opened up, and it really did start back from zero almost. Like I had so many issues just being able to like phonate aside from different vowel issues, and like because everybody has like their problem vowels, right, that just like they come for you.
Yeah.
E is mine.
A
And
lot.
so yeah, it's crazy. So just like going from not being able to really sing consistently to being able to have some kind of consistency was great. And that was my undergraduate journey. I think in the one thing that did follow me that kind of like changed my trajectory even as a professional musician was some of the feedback I got in juries that I never felt like was incredibly, sometimes it wasn't tangible. Like there would be comments and you'd be like, oh, is this actually constructive? Are you going to tell me how to fix this? Or can you? So essentially, kind of, yeah, I know, right? So
You have 3 music degrees. I so know what you're talking about.
right. So when someone tells like a 21-year-old, and this is like no offense, like I'm not coming for the education system or anything like that. I just believe like as an instructor myself, like I never want to give feedback that could become so ambiguous or like affect the person I'm talking to so much that it could change what they're going to plan to do with their life. So yes, so I got this lovely comment of like fuzz on the sound for a few semesters in the row. And as a BA, you don't necessarily get all 4 years to take lessons. So I was with Dr. Wells for like 2.5 years and then switched to doctorate students to study with. And then it became more about just getting the coursework done. But, you know, as I progressed, I did start to get less and less of that fuzz. And while I was in Dr. Wells' studio, sorry, this is becoming a bit long-winded. He did seem to think that the fuzz was probably related to some kind of like muscular weakness or nerve weakness on the side of my body. And I've always like had a much more developed right side. Like my shoulders are like different heights, basically. I mean, everybody's shoulders are probably different heights to some degree. And, you know, my ability to like extend and move my neck in different ways on varies from side to side. Anyway, he thought it had something to do with that. And so I would get scoped. I got scoped a few times in undergrad and really didn't find a ton of difference, except for we did find evidence of that asymmetry in my cartilage, in my arytenoid cartilage, which kind of, I mean, Abby can probably speak more to that at some point. I'm not the, the principal there. And then, yeah, so anyway, fuzz, felt kind of weird about it, but I was still singing really well. I worked in ensembles, but never really saw myself as a soloist. And, you know, my voice hadn't quite like blossomed yet. It didn't like grow. So it probably wasn't until 5 years later when I moved to New York in 2015. I had left singing for a while because you move to New York, it's very hard to get choir jobs sometimes, especially if you work full time in a different industry. So, you know, I left it for a bit and then I was between jobs one time and came back to singing and had that magical 2 months of like nothing to do but sing. And I kind of overdid it. I ended up getting a vocal injury, and which I don't necessarily know if it's anything necessarily that I did more as so much of having circumstances. Just so you all know that, I think that's important to realize that you can very much just have slept in a really dry room and had inflammation and also been vocally out of shape and possibly cause nerve damage.
Well, and you can also do everything
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
right? And still have an issue.
For sure. So that's actually what happened to me is I jumped in gung-ho and my doctor thinks I probably just wasn't like physically in shape for it yet. And, you know, so essentially I had a partial vocal fold paralysis on my left side. And where to go from there? I mean, I went into, I did a bunch of things. I started performing again because I had already signed contracts, so I had to. And, you know, as singers, we just kind of make do sometimes. It's like, hey, the only way to like fix things a lot of the time is to jump into the fire and figure out what's going to work. So, yeah. So I did that, sang in an opera that fall, and did my first oratorio, like featured soloist gig here in the city with the New York City Master Chorale. And also at the same time, I was going to job interviews and losing my voice in the middle of talking. So it's was something that it took about the better part of 1.5 to 2 years to work through. But here I am now, like singing full time again and working toward figuring out how to fix the way my body healed, or at least learn more about it so I can reorient it in a more healthy way.
So do you know if the paresis healed itself?
I haven't gone back into the doctor. And honestly, I think I was already getting, within 6 weeks, I think I was getting pretty good marks in my speech therapy. So there wasn't anything evident in my speaking. And then in terms of singing, like phonating became so much easier. Like there's a period of time when I was having to oversing basically just to get sound out and like
Can you
keep my
explain?
folds together.
Yes, exactly. So I just wanted you to explain what happens when you have partial paralysis in one of your
Yeah.
vocal folds is one of them like can't do the job for that vocal fold closure. So in order to find a clean sound, and sometimes any sound, the person really has to work to get those to
Yeah.
meet with through
Yeah,
some.
there's a lot of stuff had to happen to make noise.
Yeah.
And the reason why I came to the two of you initially was because I was like, I've got this really weird thing where my voice changes completely when I turn my head from side to side. And honestly, it's the action of the folds being in so much more contact and with so much more ease, like the muscles, just like some things are less involved on one side than the other. And it's wild. But yeah, so I basically had to oversing, and that's also when my voice was growing a lot. And you know, it's wild to have to be told by a teacher that you're going to need to oversing for a while. Plus, you're actually having to oversing just for your health, not just your regular vocal growth. It's interesting. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Abby can talk to this. I'm going to hand this over to Abby here in just a second. But when we're building any muscles, we need to put a certain load on them in order to strengthen them. And so that's what you were doing, right? You were like doing
Right.
biceps for the musculature.
Yeah.
And so, Abby, I'd love for you to talk about what you saw in the video. And just so everyone knows, Ryan sent us a few different videos and we've watched lots of fabulous singing. And Abby had some observations about what direction she might take, and pass it over.
My turn. No. I spent, I want to say like 40 minutes watching you, and it was
Really. That's longer than I would watch before. So good.
I wouldn't watch myself for that long either. But so I spent most of my time watching a different video where I got to see you more straight on, just because I'm looking at more, what your posture, what your body is doing.
For
I
sure.
was talking about this earlier with Liz today, how like I don't necessarily have the skills to hear what would change or be able to describe what I'm hearing, but I like to focus on how you're feeling and how easy, hard, what's moving, what's not. And so the things that I was seeing in there's one video where you're standing straight on, is that both sides of your rib cage stay very elevated throughout the song, whether you are singing or inhaling. And I know that comes with a lot of training ribs to stay elevated. I know.
Yeah, I was going to say that's on purpose.
Absolutely.
Good or bad, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm not sitting here going, I'm going to tell you how to sing differently, because that is so not my thing. But what I would like to do together is make sure that you do have mobility the other way for your everyday life and for when you're done singing. Because when you exhale, which of course is singing, your ribs do have to drop enough so that your diaphragm can move. If they are staying completely still, you're not going to get enough mobility to have as much power as you could otherwise. Mm-hmm. And so just to make sure that you have that mobility, so that even just like bending down and emptying the dishwasher or things like that, you get the variety needed to get some variability in your diaphragm position, your abdominal position, abdominal muscles position, etc. And then the other little thing I was like, oh, interesting. We're gonna dive into this next time. Yeah, he's taking notes.
So good.
Already.
The other small thing that I was noticing is that you like just watching the wrinkles of your shirt in this video, more compression through the front of the right shoulder and the base of your rib cage on the right, with that tendency to kind of drift off to the right.
Yeah, it literally does this. It just like closes in on the shoulder on this little, closes in right here.
Which, like, for a video, gorgeous. Like, I like
you like an angle, like yeah.
But for somebody who needs to like walk around on a stage and just like you were saying, like sound consistent no matter what your body is doing underneath your head while you are pointing your voice where you need to point it, that consistency is really important. So checking to see what your shoulders and your ribs can do underneath your head and your neck, and if you have any limitations with that, I have some thoughts that I'm looking forward to diving in together on.
Me too.
Yeah.
No, and that's exciting, and I just want to I want to build on what you said, Abby, and we'll just be a couple more minutes here, but and by we I mean me, because I'm talking
we always say
forever.
That.
I know, I'm a liar, don't believe me. But the lifted rib cage thing, like this is something that singers are taught. This is a cultivated habit, and cultivated habits are hard to change. But what Abby's talking about is when we keep our rib cage lifted all the time, we never fully exhale. And I know I was taught for probably 20 years to do that. And when I finally found some flexibility in my rib cage, that's when I really started finding my freest voice. So, and then I've noticed that as well, watching the video. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Abby does with you, because when you get that breath moving, good stuff happens.
I can't wait.
Other stuff frees up. So, do you have any questions for us at this point, Ryan?
I mean, not that aren't like, sorry. I sang a lot today, so I'm starting to get phlegmy. Excuse me.
Ooh, have you done your vocal cool downs? Check out Dr. Kari Reagan's article on vocal cool downs in the Journal of Singing.
Vocal cool downs.
Fab.
No questions that aren't like, let's talk about technique, but that's a can of worms.
Okay. Yes. I love talking dorky music things and body things. Like when we unlock this, good things happen. So next step, Abby and Ryan are going to meet, and then we'll see some of that next week. And I will also meet with Ryan after Abby meets with him, and we're all just going to play. We're going to figure out how to make Ryan's movement patterns help his voice.
Yay.
Yay! Thank you for reaching out and being willing to go for it.
Oh yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, our jobs as musicians are just to try to build on what we can when we can, right? We just keep growing. Yeah. So
I love it.
It's a great opportunity. This is a very rare opportunity, so take advantage of it.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Abby, go for it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, speaking of take advantage of it, those of you who are still with us, check out Breathe.Move.Sing with us. Chance to work with us one-on-one each week for 4 weeks, and we'll do group meetings. We're gonna pull the body and the voice together and make it work to make you sing freer and easier. It's gonna be great.
Make it work. I love that. We're gonna have a Tim Gunn moment. Excellent. Well, thanks y'all. Thanks for watching.
Great.
And I'm gonna stop the live.